Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome. Thank you once again. We are continuing our class, as you know. Last week we did the 600 puja, so therefore we will continue another 4 weeks starting today on these various topics. Before we start, bring your good intention and your thoughts in a prayerful way, not only for our own class and purpose of that, to learn that, but may try to increase others in your thoughts and prayers. I have received quite a lot. I always receive lots of text messages where people are, and particularly when they are not really in good situations. So there have been not so good situations. One of our friend from South Australia, his mother-in-law hanged herself, and so the very young girl got killed on the road, and so on and so forth. And our friends in Ukraine are experiencing lots of bombardment, and outage of power is normal. So spare your thoughts and prayer for these people, and in the meantime rejoice the fact that we could be in fortunate circumstances to be and learn Dharma and become sane in the way we think and what we do and what we don't. So thank you, everybody. Let's do the refuge prayers. O yenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Aitere Vede Laden Bhavaja Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Vajrave Yenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Ajere Vede Laden Bhavaja Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Vajrave Yenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Ajere Vede Laden Bhavaja Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Vajrave. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, those near and far. According to the intelligence and bread position of the Dharma, Agrelo and come vehicles. So, first group of mind and mental factors, according to the Sutra. The one in the Dhammapada deals the overall nature of the mind itself. And then in Vasubandu's writings on Abhidharma, upper Abhidharma, Samuchaya, particularly. According to that, we are looking at the 51 mental factors. These 51 mental factors, we have covered the 16 mental factors already, consisting of 5 omnipresent mental factors, 5 object-determining mental factors, and 6 root afflictions. We've covered those already. Today we're going to look at the 20 secondary afflictions. So we talked about the 6 root afflictions. So the word secondary would suggest that all these 20 afflictions have a kind of a connection to either or couple, if not all, of the 6 root afflictions. Secondary has a meaning of being branching from those. I will cover all these 20 tonight, not going in great detail, but at least try to identify what are the 20 secondary afflictions. And the first one is aggression. Of course, a definition of aggression is that you must have a seething anger there, and therefore there is a strong wish to cause harm. And one is always aiming to hurt, harm, and either damage the other, cause them suffer, so physically or verbally. So aggression could manifest. Of course, a person is aggressive. You can tell from their body language. They wouldn't even look kindly to you. If they spoke, they're very rash, and they're really snobbish. And so aggression is a sign of a hidden anger. So aggression is secondary, because aggression is manifestly, and the anger is hidden. So therefore, hidden within, not only just emotionally, but deep down, one is seething. One is almost waiting to ambush. And others cannot detect your anger except when you show the aggression. Yeah. So it's the hidden anger that is when it's expressed in physically, verbal, and mental, then the aggression. And you will actually experience. If you experience someone's aggression, it's not out of the blue. They have long seething that anger towards you. Maybe not you, maybe to somebody else. You might be just just unfortunate object. So don't think that someone's aggression means much to you. It means they have been seething anger over whatever matter it is, over totally unrelated things. You wouldn't believe. So if you understood the aggression of somebody as a kind of a branching from their unresolved anger over something or someone, maybe the thing they're aggressive to you has nothing to do with you and me, but it's all to do with his unresolved anger over something. When you know that, then we don't get so caught up in other people's aggression. Why? Because we know poor things, so many unresolved issues in their life, and therefore, where they speak, almost anywhere. In the shop they go to, they show the aggression. Drive also, they show the aggression. Open the door also, they show the aggression. So whatever. So it's nothing to do with the object to which that is shown. It's just if we face that, it's a bit unfortunate. When you know that mental factor, you can save your reaction. If you don't have seething anger, you wouldn't aggress the aggressor. That's the benefit of knowing what someone's aggression is. No? Signs of anger of other is a very noticeable facial expression, very menacing, and behavior is so obvious, and the language, their bluntness, pretty much shows that they are seething anger with somebody else, something else. Most likely, you have nothing to do with you and me. Think like that. Then you be tolerant with somebody's aggression. Okay, so that's aggression. Very helpful, doesn't it? When you understand it, don't lump that, why are you aggressive to me, type of thing. Because it shows that you didn't do a thing, but they just are so upset by anything. Didn't take anything for you to do. They're already in that mood. They've been eating that food for the mood. Yeah, they've been thinking that thought, and then they just can't improve their mood. They. So think like that. Then you practice patience. You practice patience, which is, we talked about we did talk about the 11 wholesome mental factors, didn't we? We talked already, wholesome mental factors. Yeah, patience. Patience. Now you can practice patience because you understand the secondary affliction of aggression, and what is the response to aggression? Patience, kindness. But when we think this aggression is to me, why did he do that to me? Then you also show the aggression. You wouldn't even know you are showing aggression with aggression. So they're a true aggressive person, and neither of them are helped. Both are mutually harmed. The other person really realize their wish, because you are just as aggressive. You don't have to do. He doesn't have to do much. He totally just disturb you, agitated you. He doesn't have to throw stone at you or say much. You already disturbed. He succeeded to cause harm to you. Yeah, that's it. So if we are not subjectively aware of the secondary affliction of aggression, we are likely to become aggressor with aggression. So cannot stop aggression with aggression. Aggression can be stopped by patience and calmness, and try to de-escalate that. That's why we are studying the secondary affliction of aggression, so that we do not aggress. We don't show aggression because someone show aggression. Unless we have unresolved root affliction of anger there, which means we too have a lot of seething anger, and then anything can precipitate, anything can agitate you. But when you have a lot of wholesome mental factors, loving kindness, even if somebody is aggressive, you don't lose your temper to them. This is why we study mental factors, not objectively out there behavior of other people, subjectively understand our own mental factor and choosing to be careful with aggression. And second secondary affliction is resentment. Resentment is basically the anger and not forgetting the cause of the anger you have, and resenting that as a mental continuum without forgetting it. You just say, "I'll never forget what you did." What are they saying? What they're saying is, "I never forget what you did to me," means I will resent you the rest of life. Which is so stupid. People say, "You're so stupid thing, you're going to do that?" Never forget it. Means they will wait to ambush and retaliate. Resentment. And always, person who's resentment, they always, another fight will break with that person because he has this resentment to you, and maybe resentment to anybody else. He's just resenting. Because he's a resentful person, he's like a snake. It will hiss quickly. It will throw the venom because he's resentful, and so maybe 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we still hold the grudge and we still resent what they did. We do not have any intention to forgive. We still wanted to prove what they did is so wrong, and we wouldn't hesitate to do such things ourselves. And so it's perpetuating the very samsara. Resentment is directly come from the root affliction of delusion of anger, hate. Hate. First, of course, and anger comes from desire. We didn't get what we want, so we got angry, and we desire undesirable one. So that is rooted in ignorance. See, you can see the root afflictions are rooted with each other, and then secondary afflictions are branching from that. Like the creeper tree, you know. It just first start there and goes all over the place. All the 84,000 afflictions are just 6 roots, and then it comes from the secondary, and then many else. Resentment is much more harmful in the long run than the immediate anger that one may have experienced years ago. Resentment is causing damage, destructive emotion. It is causing your blood, tissue, fiber damage, poisoning your blood by anger, resentment. Long-held resentment is the poisons the blood. What poisons the blood? Nobody puts the poison, not by eating banana. By keeping resentment going, it poisons the blood. So what does the secondary affliction, resentment does? It prolongs the anger. It prolongs the anger, and it's slowly applied anger, and because of that, person who's resentful is very suspicious, very agitatable, very upsettable. So easy to upset those people who have resentment. He can be upset by anything because he's resenting. His anger is not resolved, resenting something, and then they're limping all the time. They're always limping. They fall anytime. Anything can make them fall because they're so vulnerable. Easily they become engaged in smallest issues will make them into conflict and argument because they have resentment. If you have instead patience and kindness, even someone is really difficult, really instigate you, but you will not be so vulnerable to get upset, short temper, and like that. You will not fall and go into quarrel. It's the person who has resentment. And then they are vulnerable to fall in quarrel, and they take sides quickly. All of a sudden, they're just all over the place. Over a small matter, they just miss the whole point. Resentment is duplication of the anger. What resentment, You're sending it again, the same trouble. Self-send, address, self-address. You're sending the letter to yourself again and again. You're resending yourself. As first letter was bad, not bad enough. You send it again to yourself and send it again. Resentment. Bearing grudge for many years. And culturally, inherited resentment between culturally, like inherited racial hatred. Is a racial resentment. Culturally, hundreds of years, is holding racial resentment. Just because we are this race, we resent that one. Because we're so biased, deludedly thinking we are that race and they are not that, because of that root ignorance, and then anger, and then anything. The third one is spite. Definition of spite is it is very much the resentment and anger, resentment and aggression that we talked about. All of these three is now showing in the language. Spiteful language they call it. That language can show. So it's mental factor that is mainly verbalized. Deluded mental factor, and then person says terrible things, spiteful things, scornful things, remarks they make, So that shows aggression, resentment, anger, all coupled together, and then they use spiteful language. They don't say courteously. They cannot speak courteously. They cannot speak gently because they have been seized by resentment, aggression, and anger. See, these are we call it. These defilements are just enwrapped. We are enwrapped in defilements, not just covered in one layer of defilement, but many layers of defilements. And therefore the spite in which people speak, it disturbs anyone who hears it, not only the person you're aiming to. Anyone who hears it destroys the good relationship you enjoy with them for years, whatever, by using one spiteful language, making one condescending remark. People do silly things they say. Spiteful things they write, spiteful things they comment. These things shows how much unqualified, negative thoughts, like resentment, anger over something, and then they're easy to remark like that, So it doesn't look very harsh speech, but where it is done is very spiteful, So it's not quite harsh, direct kind of attacking, but it's really, really menacingly harmful, It's maligning against someone, It's all to do with hate, all to do with aggression, resentment, and that's all to do with desire. You didn't fulfill your desire, didn't get you want, and then you're ignorant. You're doing all the above, and you can see all the defilements are enwrapped. They just all like a creeper tree. There's all the same thing is just going from this to that and that to that, and then whole thing is covered in that creeper. Spite. Okay. Fourth one is jealousy. So jealousy is, of course, a deluded mental factor. Because how do you know jealous? You're jealous, you have jealousy. You have displeasure. You just don't like people's joy, success, friendship. If they're achieving something, you just don't show respect. You don't rejoice, but instead you're displeasure. And people's good quality, people's diligence, people's friendship, people's diligence or merits or generosity is cause of your displeasure. Otherwise, if somebody did good things, we should, good on you, thank you. But no, jealousy means there still is a lot of anger. Jealousy is an anger and desire. You desire something, you didn't get it, other got it, it's become your displeasure. If you have a lot of joy and contentment, you will not have this jealousy. So we are devoid of pleasure or rejoicing, happiness and contentment within ourselves. So it's also due to discontentment. Discontentment is due to greed, and so you can see how the afflictions are all interconnected, and so if you so you are biased also. The jealousy is also very biased. There's a total lack of equanimity. Resentment is, anger is the root. It's a root poison there, and that's what just jealousy is. Those people who don't have jealousy, anger, or desire, they have relatively controlled them with joy and contentment and thankfulness. Whatever people do, they become rejoicing. The person couldn't rejoice. When we practice in Dharma, they say you have to practice one of the 7 limbs, rejoice. But person who has anger and resentment cannot rejoice. Whatever people do, you complain. Whatever people do, it's not right. You have displeasure. How it's done, when it's done, by who it is done, it's not good. Why? Because one is seized. One is arrested by the root affliction and secondary affliction. Then one can't see good in others. One can't approve the good in others. Whether it's their reputation, whether it's the performance, whether what they're doing, how they're doing. You can't approve them. You could not support them completely. It's like a thorn in the heart, Your heart could not feel good emotions when you have jealousy. Jealousy jaundices your perception. It is cause of discontentment and disharmony. You will cause disharmony when you have jealousy. You will say things behind people. We wouldn't hesitate to cause disharmony because that's exactly what jealous people do. And they succeed to doing that because others are just as deluded as we are. Jealousy is entirely waste and futile because it achieves nothing, but it destroys everything if you have anything. It robs us our inner peace and happiness if we have one, prevents them even occurring. Jealousy is contradictory to the Bodhisattva's vows. You can't say, may all beings have happiness and cause happiness. Because one moment you see someone happy, you're jealous. It completely contradicts, hypocrite. Jealousy causes hypocrisy. You don't have to practice hypocrisy. It makes you hypocrisy yourself, and many times then you think others are. So thus, if one knows the mental factors very well, which are the deluded one, which are the root, which is secondary, what are the wholesome mental factors, how can we give rise to them, we become very selective, we become very choosy. That's why practitioners are trying to meditate, try to pray, try to read, try to learn Dharma, so that they become literate in terms of what they are creating emotionally, mentally, the factors that are destructive, factors that are constructive. Such negativities we will not give hand to. Fifth one is miserliness. So miserliness is, of course, a deluded mental factor motivated by attachment, greed, and holding things that one long wished to gain, but one dare not to use those what one has. Always think there will be greater use or alternative use somewhere, sometime in a blue moon. And therefore succeeds to makes oneself miserable, because that's what miserliness is. It makes oneself miserable. They call miserable, but actually should be miserable. He's miserably able to do miserly. Due to miserliness, one doesn't see what one has. One doesn't know what one has. One doesn't rejoice what one has. There is no contentment. It is cause of hungry ghost. It is hungry ghost, basically. Hungry ghost in the waiting lounge. It's just hungry ghost in human body is the one who has miserliness. Miserliness is opposite of generosity. It's just totally, couldn't even practice generosity because of miserliness. It's prevent us to give anything to others, even dare not to give to ourselves. Use for our own self. Always thinking that there will be a better time, more use of the things we have in the future, and always keeping things, as if. So one end up hoarding, and one end up becoming prisoner of the very things one has hoarded. One become the prisoner and guard of the prison. One become prisoner guard, and the prison. The things become the prison, one become the prisoner, and one's miserliness become the prison guard. And he's a good prison guard. He doesn't let anything come out of his fist. Tight-fistedness. Miser people are born in hungry ghosts. Straight away, don't even need to bardo. There's no bardo necessary for them. And if they have been miser in the past, they will have a lot of poverty in this. They don't get given anything. Even they have, they don't rejoice. They're always never enough what people did. Never grateful. So there's a lot of ingratitude in the miserliness people. They never see what the parents did or mother did or some did. They always have litany of things what they didn't do. That's a sign of miserliness. There's no gratitude, no contentment. Whether the people, whoever they are, they're not what the person you are. If it's a friend, it's not good enough. It's a mother, it's not good enough. It's a house, it's not good enough. Job, it's not good enough. Whatever it is, there's all this discontentment after discontentment. It's not the person lacks things. He has things, but never are they good enough. So hungry ghost is just, he cannot see trees. Or the tree turns desert. He can't see river turns desert. Like that, a miserly person doesn't see good. They have good in others. It's always craving and not seeing anything they crave. They want so much, they desire the very undesirable things, and of course they end up having no fulfillment, because the very thing they desire, even temporarily, would have some satisfaction, but that they cannot get. And they always think that you can, when you die, you can take it with you. They have this delusion, that you can use them later. And they have this amazing time, as if they will have a lot of time to use it. But no, by the time they die, by the time they have so much, then they die. They have only misery of becoming born as hungry ghosts. No wonder quite a lot of places are haunted, because the person never planned to die. He planned to just go and use it as a hungry ghost. As a hungry ghost, you can't use them because you can't drink anything. Everything destroyed. If externally distorted hungry ghost, internally distorted hungry ghost, distorted by distortion hungry ghost. So you couldn't even use what you have, because everything turns to flame when you eat, when you drink, and burns your guts. What they're eating drug and alcohol, and they're using such destructive things, and they don't dare to use the things on useful things, but they end up using things that are harmful to their body, because they don't know what is harmful, what is helpful. So they become blinded by their jealous, by their miserliness. And the next one is concealment. It's called concealment. The concealment is defined as a mental factor motivated by attachment for your wealth, for your reputation, and you don't want it to tell what you are like. So this is concealment to me, like some kind of a connection with hypocrisy, because that motivated by attachment wishes to conceal one's faults from others and act as though you have more qualities that you lack. So of course, most people will think to you never tell your flaws to other people. You think that your flaws should be hidden from other people, as if you have more quality than flaws. And person doesn't admit their flaws, one who's concealing. If somebody does attack to you of your flaws, you think you become angry and agitated. You wouldn't hesitate to combat and fight and show their flaws. But one who has flaws and concealing, but who knows concealment of flaws is a secondary affliction, as soon as somebody reveals your flaws, you admit them. So that's the benefit of it. You admit them, you confess them. So if you confess and ask their forgiveness, that's not concealment. You may have concealed a little bit, and at least you are not denying. So denial is the next one. Denial is another one. So, these are all connected. You can see how they're all desire and ignorance and all is connected. Concealment, because if you like to show as you have some good qualities, and in order to do that, you have to hide the bad as if they don't know. A person who has a good conversant with these 20 secondary affliction, when they know their faults, they admit their faults. And the one who admit their faults, they're much kinder to others who are concealing. Very good, very useful. Somebody concealing, you're not thinking that we shouldn't have such people on the surface of the earth. We think they are full of it. The surface of the earth is full of such people. And oneself is included. And someone else's faults is concealed. We don't think they are the only one who's concealing. We also know how many faults we are concealing. Is it not true, Yeah, if you're deluded, you will have all these secondary afflictions. So it's not that some people have, some people don't have. It's not like that. Everybody has 84,000 afflictions, let alone these 20 secondary afflictions. These texts only list these particular things, So therefore, never would you call other people hypocrite. Because you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't be born in samsara. You have faults. You have many flaws. Maybe different from the others. Maybe the subject might be something else. Therefore, you don't have anything like that on that area. But how about the others? So when you understand the mental factor of secondary affliction of concealment of others concealing, you know that it's just a different concealment, like I am. Therefore, you're much kinder to them. How we become so deluded in thinking that we are better by hiding the faults than acknowledging them. If you can acknowledge your faults, it's called confession. It's one of the wholesome mental factors. Confession. We deliberately sit down, do Vajrasattva each day, in order to admit that we have afflictions and we have a lot to confess. The concealer does not admit they have anything to confess. Next one is pretense. Of course, pretense and there's not a lot of difference between concealment and pretense. Pretense is a mental factor that is motivated by attachment to one's reputation or wealth or standing, wishes to pretend. Instead of not just concealing, but you pretend as you have qualities that you lack. Instead of revealing your concealed problems, concealing is one thing, pretension is another, So that you can see how pretension is a little bit more profuse, more explicit. On top of concealing, one is pretending that you have qualities. You have qualities. But at least person who's concealing may not say his qualities. So he's just concealing his faults, but he's not saying I'm generous, I'm diligent, or he's not saying that. But the pretension one is not only concealing, but on top of that, he's pretending that he has or he does many things that he doesn't do. Pretension is overt action or overt non-purchase actions, lying and deceiving other people, and causes many bad experiences for oneself and others. Concealing, if the person is hiding and concealing, there's not much. Nobody knows what he's concealing. But person who's pretending is out in the show, outly doing things to deceive many. So you can see these concealment, pretension, and the next one is denial. Denial is now actually much more because if somebody says, "Do you have it? Are you angry at me? How do you hide from something?" Instead of saying yes, they deny. So concealment and pretension is one thing. Denial is already another level much more complicated than that. Because denial is a deluded, afflicted mental factor, does not even wish to admit that he has to purify his non-virtuous actions. And one says, I have nothing to confess. I have nothing to confess. A practitioner always does their certain formal practices because they have always something to confess. Not because the thing they do is a burdensome, but because they have always infractions occurred mentally, physically, emotionally, particularly like some of the vows, like Vajrayana vows, very easy to break. As soon as you see somebody as somebody, it's already breaking. Wow, you should see them as deities. You should see them as a light. You should see them as a pure, but we don't see them pure, So that's so very easy to cause these kind of infractions. So that's why it's very easy to transgress some of the tantric vows, bodhisattva vows. Pratimoksha vows, it's just mainly physical vows. If you really are good at minding physical vows, it's less likely to break. But Mahayana vow, Vajrayana vow is very easy, very, very fragile, very fragile. So that's why Vajrayanas have to do Vajrasattva as a daily practice, not because you are exceptional, but everyone must do. Why? It occurs, infractions occurs constantly. And one, instead of denying, the others who deny. Those who deny usually are very angry at somebody else who caused transgression. Those who themselves admit and acknowledge their infraction, don't deny their vulnerability, they are kind to those who admit and who has committed some faults and transgression. They are kind to them. The kindness is a high virtue because people are always transgressing things, not because people are perfect. You don't need kindness if everybody's perfect. You need kindness because people aren't. So therefore, those who transgress, are forgiven by those transgressors, and not forgiven by those who deny. They deny they are imperfect. So it's a very obvious mental factor. They know exactly where you are at. They have probably similar situation, if not worse. Therefore, they can forgive you. Those people who deny, no, because they think they are perfect. Remember, they're pretentious, they're concealing, they're denying, and they're probably arrogant, and as well as all the afflictions there. The ninth is called self-satisfaction. Self-satisfaction is some kind of a I would say self-indulgence. I think it's more like indulging in your like Nagarjuna talks in his friendly letter. It talks about 5 types of self-indulgence. Self-indulgence with respect to your status. Status could be whatever. Maybe you live in a good country. We can all feel very. We're so lucky. We're so fortunate. so that's this feeling of status, self-indulgence status, and second is indulgence in one's physical fitness or beauty. One might be too always admiring themselves physically. There's nothing there, but one thinks one is tall or beautiful or whatever. Doesn't know what's in them, what's in this beautiful body. So it's totally indulgence, deluded to think one is beautiful physically. And then next is self-indulgence is one's knowledge, sharp, very witty and very skillful, very sharp and very articulate, and yes, So it's really dangerous place to go. Very, very difficult to have humility, you know. And we are encouraged to have these things. We are encouraged to be successful. We are encouraged to be sharp. We are encouraged to be quick. But when we have them, then we are not humble. It's another problem. And self-indulgence in one's youth and health. You know. So because people think, I'm so healthy, I'm so young, and that kind of delusion. It's an affliction because they don't realize their youth will be not long. After 25 years of age, you're no longer youth. Between 17, 18 to 25, yes, there's a youth. After 25, they said it's a course to close, past the ridge. You go past the ridge. So how long can you be so indulging in your youthfulness and your health and fitness, Yeah, sure, you can have a medical test, you have nothing wrong with you or whatever. I'm nothing wrong with me, but of course there's a lot wrong with you. Because one thing that's wrong with you, you think you have no danger. You are a transient collection. Remember that. You're not innately perfect body. You are a transient collection. The bag is. We should always transient collection. In Buddhism, we call body not body, my body. They don't say my body. Buddhists write letters, my transient collection. Or my aggregates. Aggregates most people don't understand. Yeah, my transient collections are just holding together. Very good. It's a Buddhist way of writing it. You don't say how are you also. How are your transient collections? As if you are the owner of the transient collections. Of course not. Transient collections. Very indulging in one's own transient collection. Not thinking it's transient, thinking it's a truly independently, innately existing thing, unitarily, independently, without eating pumpkin, without eating scones. You think your transient collection is independently always strong and looking good. Wait until you don't drink water for a few days, then see how able and fit and strong your body is. And then fifth one is self-indulgence in your power. Power meaning position. You have some powers, your power, So status, beauty, skills, vitality, and power. So it's all to do with indulging into oneself, So I mean, we can rejoice the fact we have precious human rebirth and so on. But if the rejoicing become cause of the indulgence, because one is precious human, but one is not doing anything useful with it, only showing it off, So it's a bit of a, you can see these secondary mental afflictions leaning very heavily onto the arrogance, arrogance over your form, status, youth, skill, and so on. And next one is the harmfulness. So basically, the harming kind of mental factor, which wishes to inflict pain and hurt and others. It's opposite of compassion. Compassion is try to alleviate sufferings, but so harmfulness is probably can be best thought as ill will, I would think. Yeah, I would think it's ill will is better than harmfulness. Harmfulness could be anything. The ill will is just a mental factor, so it is coming from anger, ill will, It is kind of seething ill will, and instead of wanting to help, instead of someone to reduce someone's suffering, one wants to inflict pain on them. One wants them to suffer. So So this comes from jealousy, this comes from anger, this comes from attachment, ignorance. So this ill will is just very, very complex mental factor. Yeah, one not only wishes someone to suffer, one wishes them to have problems. One try to scheme things so that they have problems, even to kill them, even make them die, even make them fail, make them not succeed, and try to do by hook or crook whatever you can damage the other. If they have something, you want them to lose it. If they have got something, you want them to lose it. If they're friendly with others, you want them not to remain friendly. You will do anything so that they don't remain friendly. This is the ill will is like that. So that's why it's a very big Buddhist issue, this one, the non-violence. If you practice non-violence, you cannot resort to ill will, It's just totally contrary. One might not eat meat, or one might not, release doves, but still one is holding ill will. This is the point. Release doves, but keep ill will. Because dove is easy to let go. You should never have been caught in the first place, You don't know. But ill will, one doesn't know. It's the most harmful. Ill will is not only planning to harm others, but harming oneself blindly, blatantly, before one succeeds to harm others. One's usefulness to anybody will be compromised when you have ill will, even to those who you wish to help. If you have ill will, even to your mother, you are not helping her. You don't have any ill will to her, but you have ill will to a colleague or something. Because of that, you are not helping your mother, you're not helping anyone, including you. It has already harmed you before you succeed to cause any harm to others. So this shows how devastatingly destructive ill will is. People buy health insurance, but still keep ill will going. It's completely counterproductive. Health insurance people are happy to have lots of ill will people to sell the insurance to, because they will succeed to sell them many. Because these people don't realize the health cannot be bought with money. Health when health is destroyed by one's own ill will, what's the point of health insurance? It's not just planning to harm others, not succeeding to harm people just yet, but oneself is harmed from the day one, non-stop. Sleeplessness, bad high blood pressure, agitation, anger, abusing drug, angry, agitated, depressed, all these are a result of ill will. That's why it's good to make a vow not to do ill will. That's Bodhisattva vow. Bodhisattva vow is not to do ill will. Doesn't mean you have to shave your hair. Doesn't mean you have to give up this, give up that. But you just give up ill will. Bodhisattva vow very much is destroyed by ill will. Even outwardly, you wouldn't eat meat, or you wouldn't drink this, or you wouldn't go there, or you wouldn't do that, or this. Outwardly like that, but they all destroyed by ill will. It is that bad. Ill will person do not succeed anything they do. They will never fulfill any of their wishes. The most things they put a lot of time and invest, they never come to fruition. The ill will is such an obstacle. It's a king of obstacles. You don't need any obstacles caused by other people. You don't need any enemies when you have ill will. Some people say in the teachings, the person who has no enemy is happy person. Why? Because he has no ill will. If you don't have ill will, you don't have enemy. It's ill will that creates enemy. Then you are suspicious. Why is doing that? Why are they doing that? You cannot approve anything they do because you have the ill will. You couldn't see what they do is good because you have ill will. Because you have ill will, you are jealous what they do. If they don't do, you're angry. If they do, they're angry. So there's no time that we could be settled. I think the main bodhisattva, Buddhist vow should be not to do ill will, really. You know, when we talk about the 10 non-virtuous deeds, most people talk about the 3 physical things, 4 verbal things. The 3 mental things are what constitute these mental factors. Covetousness, and ill will, and wrong view. Ill will is one of the 10 non-virtuous deeds. Not just one secondary affliction. It's one of the most destructive action is ill will. Even if someone threw a rock at you, even whatever, it is not because the rock that hits you, it's the ill will which the person hits. It's the bad look they give you. Is worse than the rock. The one who looks with ill will. Some are born blind because they look others with such ill will so many times in their life. Next time they wouldn't see anything because they are not fit to see anything because they didn't see anything in the previous life. They all poisoned them with ill will. Ill will not succeed you to fulfill any of your wishes, even you put a lot of time and resources, money, it will not. But goodwill will do the exactly opposite. Ill will be, path will be difficult, cause will be difficult, and result will be painful. Base will be painful, path will be painful, result will be painful. Goodwill is the exact opposite, So you can see, those who harm others are not trainees of my Dharma, Buddha said in the Sutra. He says, those who hold ill will over whatever it is, they're not Buddhist. They do lots of Buddhist cultural things, but they're not Buddhist. Buddha said that, Throwing sticks, hurting others, of course, visible things. But ill will bites and hurts oneself and others more than destructively. Most people are doing ill will. They're angry. They think someone wronged me. And they don't know how much of the ill will is wronging them. This is the problem, because you can't see that. When you learn Dharma, you see the ill will is the most destructive emotions. They don't say most destructive people. They say most destructive emotions. Even people that are destructive are because they're just completely maddened by the ill will. So much hate. They have no intention to drop it. They think they got 110 reasons to hold the bad ill will. This is what they think. They think the other person's doing is so wrong that they have many, many reasons to hold the ill will. That's deluded. One doesn't see that one's action will have consequences. Ill will is so disabling that one doesn't see what one will do and one is doing has consequences. If one says somebody did this and I will do 2 times more than that, still one doesn't see there any consequences. One can see the consequences other person's doing. One doesn't see any consequences that it will have sooner or later. Doesn't know how to fear. So sick that the person doesn't know the law of consequences. So basically, people who deliberately harm others with ill will are not Dharma practitioners. Even if they have practiced, they do Dharma rituals, the sadhanas, and do, but what for? That's pretense. That's the exact pretense. So that's why we invoke the refuge tree. We visualize the Vajrasattva on our top of our crown. We ask the Buddhas to bear witness to us, and we try to say, may all beings have happiness, a cause of happiness. And while keeping this harboring ill will towards something, how can we even say it? See, we are pretending that we believe in loving kindness. How could you have said loving kindness word on the surface, but deep down one is practicing ill will? And not even acknowledging one has ill will. This is pretense. If that is not concealment, if that is not denial, then what is it? You can see how the afflictions, all the secondary afflictions, the root afflictions, just so camouflaged, you can't even tell which is which. That's why it's so hard to know we are deluded. It's very difficult to know we are deluded because we are sentient beings. If you're a yogi, you know that. Yogis have the one advantage of knowing they're deluded when they are deluded. And they hardly have any time they're not. So they are always yogi. They always stay present to watch their mind and their thoughts if they are deluded. Whether they are deluded sentient beings who have impure perceptions, or they are yogis who have experiential perception. Yogis are always on the guard. Doesn't mean they're always practicing formally. They're practicing formally as well as not formally, but still always on the watch. So they're cognizant of their own deludedness. When they're deluded, they straight away, even someone's aggression towards you, the other's aggression is no excuse for you to aggress them. Others' aggression will show whether you lack kindness or have ill will. It's very obvious, Choice is, one is medicine, one is poison. And one can tell if you're angry with someone who's aggressed you, you too are deluded. You are also aggressive and angry and so on. The yogi, who's a yogi, who flips his mind, so damn it, it's not the way. That's aggression with aggression will not get me nowhere. It should be compassion. He pauses. Yeah? And then does not, then he knows. Yogi has experiential perception. One moment he was deluded, another moment he quickly restrained the delusion from going ahead. See? Delusion is impermanent. These afflictions are not real. They're not truly existing things. They're not independently there. When you can make delusion impermanent, sanskara, mental formations, there's no mental formation that's permanent. You can deformalize mental formation, you can deform mental formation, you can reform mental formation, you can abstain mental formation. That's yogi. The yogi has many postures. He can change his postures, yeah? Because he does yoga, He does the deep yoga now. Even the shallow yoga people can do some postures like this way and that way. They can do hatha yoga postures. But real yogi is doing raja yoga. They're changing the posture of their attitudes. They can reform the mental formation. They can restrain mental formation. They can deform the mental formation. See? There is no such thing of mental formation that is dictated by ignorance. You can minus the mental formation from ignorance. Minus ignorance, what is the mental formation? It is kind, it's wise. See, the yogi is now wise. Yogi has yoked. Yogi means yoked his wisdom and compassion together, and not ignorance with hate and aggression. If you don't know ill will, the kind of weight, the devastating suffering caused by ill will, you wouldn't know what is suffering. Buddha said, suffering must be known, cause must be apprehended. If you apprehend the cause, then you will abandon the cause. You renounce the cause. Dunga shepracha, kunjung pangpracha, You know, Buddha spoke these active verbs, 4 active verbs. Suffering must be understood, and its cause must be abandoned, and cessation must be realized. And to realize cessation, path must be followed. If we don't understand secondary affliction like ill will, we will not know what to abandon. We will abandon in goodwill, we will practicing with the exact opposite. We want happiness, but we, instead of creating cause of happiness, we adopting to ill will. That's what Shantideva lamented. Devan Dzogchen, Timukpes, Even though one seeks happiness, but due to ignorance, Rangi Deva Dratranjoms, one deliberately destroys one's happiness as if that was the enemy. Even if one has the thought to get rid of suffering, one is diving into the suffering and its causes, unconsciously not knowing it. So one who doesn't know is sentient being. So they are deluded. So therefore there are plenty of them. So you shouldn't be too shocked by it, because that's where you have stepped in. You come in the wrong group. And if you are able to see the deludedness of sentient beings, and then show compassion, poor thing. And then instead of using rage and anger and aggression, you restrain the aggression, you restrain the ill will, and then compassion. See? The wholesome mental factors is at your will. Why? You are abandoning the cause of suffering. And when you abandon the cause of suffering, the actual cause of suffering, then of course you will be practicing the very path with which you will yield the cessation of suffering. That's the yogi. That yogi is still not perfect, Yogi doesn't have pure perception. But yogi is not entirely deluded. He knows his delusion. He admits his deludedness. He has no time to check the flaws of others. He wasted many lifetimes doing that. And maybe he wasted quite a few years in this life as well. He's burned many of his fingers, and so he doesn't want to go there. See, this is the meditation. This is the mindfulness. His mindfulness, how to exercise restraint of ill will. Why? Because he understands mental factors. That people like Vasubandu and Asanga brothers have taken great effort to write on these topics. Not only that, they read the Sutras. If they didn't read the Sutras in which the Buddha spoke about the afflictions, and they would not be able to comment like this. So it is from the Sutra they read, then they write Shastras. Shastra means commentaries. You can't comment unless there is something to comment on, You go to the shops, you comment on apples, bananas, fruits, these things, Oh, this is good banana. Oh, this is straight from Queensland, or whatever. People always commenting things, all this advertisement to sell product. They're always commenting how good the things are. And the yogis are always talking about how good loving kindness is, how good compassion is, how good mindfulness is, how destructive ill will is, and because their subject is not in the market. They can't go in the market and explain this. They are there subjectively looking at it. They are not objectively looking at the market. They're subjectively looking themselves. And the yogis have experiential perception. When they learn how to vary their comments, when they learn to change the object of things they're commenting to, they're much more conversant about their thoughts and their feelings, their emotions, how deluded, how wholesome, what neutral thoughts they are and they are not. When you become very, very literate of your own mental factors, you will be so much advanced. You will be so much asset to those around others, because you wouldn't be so childish, reactive, overreactive. You wouldn't. Every sentient being you see, most of them are in the pool of some pool of mud in which they stuck. Only this Vyalim any who is above the mud. Even the bodhisattvas are in the mud, because they have to be among those who are in the mud. Otherwise, who will rescue them? So we are trying to we are hoping we could become one such neophyte bodhisattva. Novice bodhisattva. Not telling, of course, I'm bodhisattva, wearing a badge here. Not even a trainee bodhisattva. You just think that you're not quite an adequate bodhisattva, but it's good to be kind to all the beings who are not. Then you have no ill will. Even if they did harm you, they did everything to you that you would not harm with harm, ill will with ill will, abuse with abuse, and a harsh word with harsh words. You would not do it. Why? You have you're not vulnerable. You are armored. You are wearing armor plated. You are armored by your mindful mental factors that you know. You are wearing positive mental factors. As a result of that, you're not so vulnerable. You wouldn't deny, even if people tell you're bad and accuse you or whatever it is. You see that. Let them say that. It's good for my ego. I have such a big ego. Such a big ego, You only way I want. And now when somebody tells this, you can see whether they're accusing or whether they're harming, whether they're total lie, even they tell total lies. That's perfectly fine. Why? Because you have the experiential perception how to turn, all base metal into gold, because you got the elixir now. Yeah. You can shred everything. Nothing lands on you, because before they arrive on you, there you can scramble them. That's why you have the sword of Manjushri. That's why you have Vajrapani. What's the point of holding a thunderbolt that you never use? So when you know the sentient beings are very, very afflicted by all this root and secondary affliction, which is no shock, nothing new, you are super alert how not to lose your yogic practitioners' kindness and transform them and have experiential perception. To the yogis, there's experiential perception. To the deluded sentient beings, they have impure perception. They see everything out there. Yogis do not see anything out there but one's own projections. That's the difference. When you know they are your projection, you just don't project it. You just unproject it, or at least dim it, or scramble it. See, this is the whole thing. This whole thing. Why we want to study mental factors, that we actually know how not to be swayed and flooded by these negative mental factors. That's what the meditations are meditating, so that they can spot these mental factors, afflictive mental factors, as soon as they arise, because they come from nowhere, so they're not resident there. They're not, unless you have a root affliction which is not totally terminated or uprooted, then they just arise circumstantially. And because they arise circumstantially, you can remedy them circumstantially. You can also remedy them. You can remedy. You need the remedy. You need the remedy. Remedy is not truly existing. Also, remedy is used as soon as the problem arises. The problem does not exist where the remedy. Problem does not truly exist. Even sentient beings deluded secondary affliction, and the effect does not have true existence when you have the remedy. That's exactly that, not just philosophically saying things are empty, but you can make it empty. You can make them change. You can make them transform your milk into yogurt and the yogurt into butter. By the way, it should be creamy milk. You don't make butter. You cannot make butter with milk that is light milk, okay? You have to have creamy milk. Boil. I've seen people, the Tibetan women always do that. They buy creamy milk because they have seen their parents and mother do that. They buy creamy milk and then boil it, and then they leave it there. And they put the little finger to take the temperature, and then it's just warm, and not getting cold, but not hot. If it's hot, you can barely put your finger. You can put comfortably, but still warm. And then they put the yogurt culture. And then they stir it like that, and then wrap the pot with a lot of blankets. Some places so warm you don't need to do much. They just leave it there. It's probably in Queensland you can make yogurt every day. And then you know what they do? They don't drink it as a yogurt. They will then churn it. They'll churn the yogurt and then turn it into butter, Yeah, and then they have watery milk to drink on the side. So they got two products. So it's good to know how to transform, So yogis have the skill how to transform these things, even others' harmfulness, ill will towards you. When you see their ill will, you shouldn't be devastated. They have the ill will. You should feel compassion. They must suffer so long to have this kind of ill will. This is not first time they're practicing with you. They're practicing this all the time, poor thing. And they're so deluded in using such destructive thing to their disadvantage. It got them nowhere, but they still are doing just that. So stubborn and so deluded. And you want it out of compassion. Their harm, their ill will towards you does not dent your morale, but it makes you stronger. Why? Because you know the destructiveness of the ill will as a mental affliction, and particularly if they are deluded. But you are armored. You are armored. You have the skill. You are a yogi. You are a practitioner. You have refuge. Why you took refuge? Just so that you can change the name? No, hope not. Then if you decide to go on the path of doing that, that's when going for refuge means you left. Don't come back. One should tell oneself, don't come back. Do you remember we left to deal from doing ill will? So when we understand the secondary affliction of ill will, there's a lot to consider. Whether one is a yogi or whether one is a deluded sentient being. Yogi sentient being, deluded sentient being. Yogi sentient being will transform, experience it the harm, ill will of others as a cause of compassion and forgiveness and one's own motivation not to harbor that ill will, but turn that good, turn it into good, because you have the technology. You have the elixir to transform all the things into gold. They call golden dharmas. They call golden teachings. We put golden buck and dough for what? What's the point of painting cement with gold and when you're not practicing golden dharma? It means untarnishable. It doesn't matter how many times they ill will to you. You never will be dented by that. But you have yogic kind of power to not to do ill will when someone's ill will. This is where the practitioners is found. You might say, I did this many mantras, I never forget to do this every day. Sure, that's a very good devoted. But it's even better when you don't do ill will. Even better, you don't do ill will with ill will. Real bodhisattvas are made when someone is really ill-willing you. Someone is really, really pushing you to this totally just an unforgiving mentality. That's the crucial moment that a bodhisattva will be born. And you wouldn't believe the change, the realization that comes from this. Okay, the 11th one is shamelessness. Shamelessness. Yeah. Of course, the opposite is shamefulness. So people who have this mental affliction, they are exact opposite of having a sense of shame, a sense of embarrassment. Because it is shamelessness and fearlessness and courageousness. They break the vows and they do anything as if there will be no consequences. It makes us to perform non-virtuous deeds because of shamelessness. Almost they fear no consequences. They think they're courageous. They think they're bold. They think what they do have no consequences. Amazing. What other person did have consequences, so you can do anything to him, but what you do have no consequences. What other people did is a remote causes of problem. What you are doing now is an immediate cause of your problem. Yet one doesn't see that due to shamelessness. 11th one. 12th one is inconsideration. That means lack of consideration. Opposite of being considerate, So not considerate of others, Lack of consideration of shamelessness are the basis of incurring many downfalls, transgressions. And they are blatant cause of lower rebirth. Even if the person is in human form, but he's suffering as if they're in the lower realms. They don't need to change their life because they already got lower realms. By their inconsideration, by their thick skinness. They call thick skin, means inconsideration. 13th one is called dullness. So dullness is, we're familiar with that. The very heaviness in the body and inflexibility of your mind, very rigid, very dull, and nothing will go in, no rationality, and mind become enveloped in darkness, become very unclear and confused, foggy and dark. So, and a lot of sleepiness and that sort of thing, and very indolent, very unproductive days, weeks, and one rather enjoys them. One indulges in the dullness. 14th is distraction. So that's exact opposite. Yeah, so if you're not dull, you're very distracted, you're very restless, you're very, very jumpy, and the mind is wandering and contaminated with thoughts, place, people, object. One is doing this, all of a sudden one couldn't do this, distracted, left that barely started and not finished. And so a person's started many things and never left, almost finished nothing well because so distracted, so unproductive. And very easily fatigued and very easily tired and very easily because of the distractedness. One is investing so much energy in so many dissipated objects or interests, but actual interest is never followed. So distracted and doing nothing wrong, nothing right, The person who is not distracted, the opposite would be, they will be productive. They got things to do. They have time management. They know exactly when is when, where is what, so on. Distracted person has no management of time and no management responsibility to. One has no care to others. One has no sense of responsibility to others, and one just have this scatteredness. 14th. 15th is called excitement. So that's a subtle kind of a distraction, is excited, So excitement is mental excitement, and it's mainly always excited by sensorial pleasures, objects and actions that brings you pleasure. Yeah, like from sensorial pleasure, but like looking at things, or like listening to things, so always go to enjoyment, go to concert. It doesn't mean one shouldn't, by the way. So just always looking for something to excite their senses, and because they don't realize how deluded that it is. So it's not just sensory object, even in the mind, meditation also one become excited as with small flavor of samadhi, one become attached to them, very excited with them, without looking at the fundamental shift in one's behaviors and attitudes. One's looking for this kind of esoteric or superficial signs of, seeing past or remembering past or all that sort of thing, reading people's mind or having signs and becoming so excited about these kind of new age or superficial signs. So one needs to be more grounded, not to be so excitable, because it takes eons, takes many years and lifetimes to become highly realized. So one should not become so excited. So 16th is a lack of faith. It's called lack of faith, or non-faith. The person just doesn't want to try faith, doesn't want to have faith in things. They just choose the opposite of faith, and no faith. Basically, say no, I have no faith. In Southeast Asia, there is a group of people. Or not just group of people. I think generally the whole community thinks people who have faith are something wrong with them. So they say, free. We are free thinkers. They say we are free thinkers, meaning people who have faith cannot think freely. So they call themselves free thinkers, and of course they don't want to be Buddhists. Of course they don't want to be Christians. Of course they don't want to be Muslims. Of course they don't want to be Hindus. They don't want to do it, and they think they are free thinkers. So that's exactly what they're saying. They're admitting this. They have no faith, no faith. When you feel your senses, you say no religion. Oh yes. People who say no religion means they have blatantly admitted that they have no faith. It's not talking about blind faith. It's just they don't even want to use kind of good rational reasoning to see what it is. Buddhism don't advocate blind faith anyway. It should be reasoned. To a certain degree you should reason, but not always checking all the time. Then it become doubt, So there is a limit how long it's compulsive disorder is that. Obsessive compulsive disorder is that you can't believe in anything. Because you can't have any faith. You lost faith. Even if you have lost faith. And you rather have no faith than have faith because you realize you're losing so much with faith. Because they place faith in people. They place faith in deluded sentient beings. They place faith in wealth. They place faith in status. They place faith in what they want to do. They don't have faith in the teachings or the law of causality. Buddha said, have faith in law of causality. That's much better than having faith in the Buddha. People doing economics, people doing this study, but to make a living, they want to learn economics. Yet they don't think they believe in law of cause and effect. They should study bricklaying. Why didn't they do bricklaying all the time? Why they choose to do economy? They obviously think that there are different consequences if you did this. So non-faith is a mental factor that is the opposite of faith. It makes our mind very dry, and nothing will grow in us, Very, very pessimistic. One who's have no faith is very pessimistic. No hope also. Okay, 17th is laziness. 17th is laziness. Oh, we know that. Laziness is a deluded mental factor, motivated by attachment to temporary pleasures, to sleep, to avoiding activities, responsibility, always trying to put it off and delaying, procrastinating, and one have rational reason why one doesn't want to do. I'm tired, I'm not busy, I'm busy, I cannot do, it's not convenient, it's too much for me. All this kind of minimalist, always this kind of laziness. Person have very little things to feel thankful because he hasn't done anything. He's very unproductive. And even if he's doing certain things, he can only do things. Other things he's got a lot of time, but when it comes to doing wholesome mental health, wholesome things, he's not free. He's lazy. He can't be bothered. But when doing other things, he's really energetic. He's very enthusiastic. So here laziness refers to laziness that prevents oneself from doing good deeds, and so on. It says that one kadampa geshe nom karaka. Karakpa. Just outside of his cave, there was a thorn bush, and as the thorn bush was growing, for him to go down is always now becoming narrower and narrower. Every time when he went in and out, the thorn bush scratched him, Each day he would decide to cut the bush, but as his retreat schedule is so tight, he never found time to cut it. he never found time to cut it. Month by month, the bush grew larger until eventually it blocked the whole path. The local people thought that Geshe Karaka was very lazy. Geshe Karaka was lazy to cut the thorny bush, that's for sure. Because he would not be bothered even to trim a bush, when in reality his inactivities of that was a sign of not sign of laziness, but his effort is completely committed to do what he said to do. So laziness, it may look like he's lazy from cutting the bush, but he's actually very committed to do the other thing, So like that, non-faith, is like non-faith, laziness, non-faith, we were talking about lack of faith, laziness is very harmful for the practice of Dharma because it never feels convenient. They think it's too much. They think, I cannot do, I'm busy, I'm sick, I'm not well, I'll do it later. So the idea is very bright, I'll do it later. Oh, yeah, that's much better. You've got a lot of later times. I'm not well. Yeah, that's true. You're not well. This is too much for my poor body. Yes, all the body says, yes. The rest of the body all agree. So whole community will just say, yes, we cannot do this. I'm tired. Yes, we are all tired. So you got lots of troops that will help you from doing anything, So the only difference between Buddhas and sentient beings are Buddhas attain enlightenment due to lack of laziness, and sentient beings are squandering and lost in samsara due to laziness. That's the only difference, Different. And 18th is lack of conscientiousness. Lack of conscientiousness means heedless. Yeah, heedless. One is very heedless. It's opposite of heedful. And 19th is the forgetfulness. Forgetfulness. Yeah, forgetting to do the very wholesome, important things. Forgetfulness is mostly to do with ignorance, very heavy. Mind is forgetting the good things. Other things, he remembers everything. But doing good things, he forgets everything. So forgetfulness is deluded. If you forget breakfast, it's not deluded. You might be too busy doing other things, So doesn't mean that, he's so forgetful, he didn't have breakfast. Sometimes you forget breakfast, doesn't you? But it's not that you are forgetting breakfast. You are busy with doing other things. You're remembering to do other things quite well, By the time you want to eat breakfast, it's already lunchtime. Such are the yogis. Yogis forget lunch. Yogis forget. They even decide to not eat. Not forget, they just decide not to eat dinner. So yogis are not forgetting. The ordinary people are always thinking of food. Forgetting their practice, So deluded forgetfulness is forgetting to do the virtuous things, wholesome things. Good disciplinary practice one is forgetting. It's a major obstacle in meditation, in your prayer, in your everyday life. You forgot again. You forgot to say, I'm sorry. You forgot to say thank you. Even though you realize you did cause some problem, you forget, And so then so that's the 19th, the last and 20th one is as a non-alertness, lack of alertness. Lack of alertness means one is not alert, one is not watchful. One can't see one's faults as one's faults, and one is not alert again. One is totally distracted. So non-alert is opposite of introspection. When you're very introspective, you will be not unalert. You will be very alert. Yeah. So one is able to, when you know all these 20 secondary afflictions, and you could actually see whether they are operational in your mind or not as a practitioner. And And if they are, you try to take cautions, because you are more harmed by your your deluded afflictions than by people. These are real inner enemies. The real enemies are afflictions. The kleshas are the affliction. All of these 6 root and 20 secondary afflictions are kleshas. Kleshas are the cause of wrong actions. Even wrong actions that we do are performed under the sway of the afflicted mental factors. So when we know the afflicted mental factors, we can keep an eye out. We just stay watchful. Why are we meditating? We're meditating so that we can detect these inner enemies. Your high blood pressure or your various health problems are caused by these afflictions. Afflictions causes poison of blood and sudden problem in your whatever main organs. Why do they develop? You're eating right. You're avoiding this. You're doing exercise. You're doing all things that our doctors say. But most doctors don't say don't do ill will. They'll say, you should reduce the carb. You should do exercise. They can say all of these things because that's what they were taught. They were taught about nutrition, they're taught about anatomy, and they taught about behaviors and so on, but they never taught about the understanding of the afflictions. Affliction does not even appear in modern psychological book. They talk about bad people, how to control bad people. They talk about how to control bad people, how to deal with difficult people. They used to run workshops. So Dharma is very senior in this knowledge. Right from the very beginning, Buddha said suffering must be understood, its origin must be abandoned. And what is the origin? It's afflictions. Kleshas are the affliction. Kleshas are the root cause of the affliction. Yeah, kleshas are the root cause of negative actions. We don't want to perform negative actions. And we are decapacitated to perform good actions because we are afflicted. We cannot enjoy health because our blood is poisoned by our anger and ill will. People tell you what not to eat, but they don't tell you what not to think. Don't do ill will. Full stop. And then you say, what is ill will? Who knows about ill will? The Buddha knew of enlightenment. He's the enlightened one because he knows about thoughts. He's enlightened in everything, including the psychology of suffering and physics of emotions and so on. So that's why people bow down to the Buddha. Not because the statue is looking good or made out of gold or not. That's not a reason to bow down to statues of Buddha, That's not idol worshipper. Buddhists are not idol worshippers. They bow down to Buddha because they salute his teachings, his wisdoms. Culturally, it changed people. But people's outer behavior of reverence towards Buddha, we must understand why. We must understand why people bow down to Buddha. Because they salute him, namaste, they salute, because his words are such a pearl of wisdom. And this is totally ask people to check themselves whether they are true or not. And you don't go and mucking around. You just test. And everybody who found that true, they find refuge. That's what we call refuge in Buddhism. Go for refuge. You really surrender to the Buddha. And make a vow to follow the path. That makes the person, whether we call the person goes Buddhist, become Buddhist or not is really not important. Conventionally, it is. That's what it is. That's what Buddhists are, just people who take steps to go out of samsara. They go for refuge. Go for refuge. They don't say stay in faith. That's for go for refuge. Means you have to find reason to leave the ill will. and all these afflictive emotions. That's where you're leaving ill will. You're leaving these negativities so that you can go towards the 11 wholesome mental factors. If you cultivate the wholesome mental factors, the 11 wholesome mental factors, you have greater chance of not stay in the same pool of suffering you were flooded in with sorrow and hurt and pain. So that concludes the 20-second reflection briefly tonight. Thank you, everybody. I am excited to talk about these things, if I'm allowed to be excited. They were saying, yeah, that affliction is very strong in me, I tell you that. Thank you for your you're excited enough to listen every week like this. Thank you for your company. We'll dedicate the merit. Thank you, everybody. Om Bade Mere Me Hovaga Deva Menzage Om Neze Me Hale Beradobi from the ocean of Buddhism Herenda Maya Nadij Whatever Mere me hobi because Choedak Mahayana Jija Goreja Manju Shinyuoti as a mantra Badra Diliva following the Dezamba I shall Mere Meda Zelem Body Jeda Teba Veras No Yedanza Veras Bimbo Meyading Freely Without Generation. Thank you. Take care.